Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. I want to be sure and say all the appropriate things first. I already said welcome, I meant it. What I wanted to say was please don't forget to subscribe. The other thing is one of the listeners, viewers, wrote in and said to me, Mike, you're forgetting to say something. Oh, okay, what am I forgetting to say? What you're forgetting to say is if you want to be notified as soon as the next video comes out, you don't just subscribe, you have to click on the bell. I'm very computer illiterate, so anyway, please subscribe and click on the bell. And whoever that was that wrote in, I'm sorry I don't remember your name, but thank you, I appreciate you. Okay, so last time we buttoned these cases together on this Evo motor, and I said what we'd probably do next is put the oil pump on and maybe get the cam chest done. I think we'll see if we get the oil pump done here in short order. You know, my hands are a little stiff today, so it might get a little interesting, but I have a new oil pump shaft here for this motor, which makes me pretty happy. So, without any further ado, let's install it. A little assembly lube on the shaft, and the end that goes in, which will be accepting the gear, is the one with one keyway, and the two keyways for the other two gears that are on the oil pump are out here. They can now be seen. All right, so we're going to slide that little shaft in there real careful like. And it slides and turns and it's happy. Me too. Okay, the next thing is we're gonna put this gear on here. Now, to get that gear on there, we're gonna put the shaft right through it. Now, I may have to get my own flashlight here, just to get in here and line up. Let's see if you can see that, Mike. Can you see where the keyway on the shaft is? Okay, and we have to line up the keyway on the gear. So we can slide the key in there. And that's a little tough with your fingers, but I'm going to do it, and I'm sure nobody's going to really follow it as far as that's concerned, but sometimes I can do it with a pair of pliers, and sometimes I can't. Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's difficult. And today is my lucky day. It was easy, and I can show it in there. I'm hoping, let's see, is that light too bright? There, that's a little better. And you can see that key is in there. So now I can slide the shaft and the key back against there. All right. Now I have to get the snap ring in there. Now that one I really am feeling cool about. I found my best pair of pliers for that. A pair of snap ring pliers here. And as soon as I get them, the snap ring onto the pliers, can we see that there, Mike? Okay, now with the light on it, I'm going to slide that right down there. And get that snap ring in place. I just heard it snap, and there it is. Now, I'm not sure if there's some sort of divine intervention. That just went easier than I have ever installed one in my life. I don't think I deserve a round of applause. I'm just really happy about it. When life is good, it's good. That was really, really nice. So now we can put the oil pump on. Now, naturally, I have prepared for this. Things don't always go this smoothly. But I really did set up for this so I could say, this is how it goes and all the parts are ready. To think that things go this quickly and easily, you know, they do go nicely sometimes. But I try to prepare for a video so that I don't waste everyone's time. Again, this is my favorite way of putting oil pump gaskets on. Some people agree with this, some do not. It's okay with me. But my favorite that works the best here is white lithium grease. And that way it not only seals up, but if any of it gets into the oil passages, it's not going to do any harm. So here we go. You'd think I would have greased them up and had them all ready to just slap on here, but that's not reality. Okay. Okay, that pretty well does that one. And we'll put it on. I've already cleaned up the oil pump body. I've put the pipe plugs back into it. I put a new seal in it. Okay, here we go. Line up the holes so that when we put the body on, everything will line up. Whoops. And maybe not. Okay. Wipe my fingers off a little bit. And with a little bit of assembly lube on it, I think I'll put that, put the key right here in the shaft for this gear. And there it is. And the key is in the shaft. Got that close up? You did, thank you. Now when I slide the gear on, let me see if I can find the keyway. And I did. And I slid it into place. And with that, I've got my finger inside the cam chest holding the oil pump shaft, because if I push that shaft too far in, the key is going to fall off and the gear won't be working anymore. So now I'm going to put assembly lube on the other gear. These are the scavenge gears, the ones that return the oil from the engine back to the oil tank. A little coating of assembly lube on them makes them really happy. Makes it a lot easier to start the engine with oil pressure too, because that oil in there really does do something. Okay, so now the oil, the scavenger gear is in the pump, and we're ready to go. And I tell people all the time, use your manual, use your parts book, and when it comes to oil pumps, things like that, unless I know that every bolt is absolutely proper and perfect for that pump, I go back into the parts book and I look it up. And I make sure that I'm using the right length and right description of bolts for the oil pump. Just fitting isn't good enough. Needs to be right. This is a very critical part of your motor. Okay, now the oil pump body is ready to slide in place. And I think I'm going to put a little oil on the end of the shaft because I'm going to slide it into the seal. Now I might add, I think I already said this, I did already replace the seal in the body, which is this little seal right here. Right there. Okay. Now we're going to put that, I'm holding the oil pump shaft inside the cam chest. I'm seeing that the gears are meshing together right here inside. And now it slides right into place. And I carefully get the bolts in the body started into the case. Here's the first one. And see carefully that they route themselves through the gasket. And we're going to put them quite a ways in. We're not going to snug them up yet, but we're going to make sure that this body doesn't fall off as we assemble the rest of the oil pump. But there are part numbers for these bolts, part numbers for these washers, and all of them play an important part in the assembly. Okay. Well, that was kind of nice. Let's see if we can do some more of that. I want to put the next key in the oil pump shaft. And see, anytime I want to turn that shaft, I can turn it by the gear. Okay, now I want to get some oil on it, assembly lube, to help that key stick in there so it doesn't fall out while I'm trying to assemble the rest of the pump. Haha. Got it. Nope. Not going to be that easy. I'm gonna have to turn this to where I can see it. The cool part is when you drop this key, it just falls into the body. It doesn't go anywhere else. Maybe we'll turn it a little further, get a little bigger shot at it with my finger. Not working. right. And that key is in the keyway. All right. That makes me very happy. My fingers are not working perfectly today, but they're doing their best. And that makes me pretty happy. All right. Now, again, holding the oil pump shaft with one hand and noticing where the keyway is here. If I'm real lucky, it's going to slide right on there. And it's not doing it. What? Well, having a little bit of trouble here.
The key's on the slide.
Okay, let's see. The key is moving. Mike, the cameraman, is over here trying to tell me, and I'm just having a rough time with it because there it is falling off again. So we'll try to get it back on there. Which is just the way of the world, folks. And it's back in there again. I'm just pleased the inside one didn't fall off 14 times.
Clockwise. Right there.
Okay. I'm afraid I can't see it in there. And that's just the way it is. There we go. And it is in there. It is in there and on. That's pretty good when the cameraman can hold the camera and my flashlight at the same time. I love it. Thank you, sir. Okay, now we got one more snap ring. And if you're real lucky, you can put them on with your fingers, which is the way I like to do them. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And that was perfect. Let's see if we can see that. Let's see if we can see the opening in the snap ring. Well, that'll show you that it's a snap ring. And there it is. Okay. Well, that makes me happy. That's pretty much the hard parts. Now we need to put the cover on the oil pump. And this being a late model, I think this is a 97 motor. It has lines at the bottom of the pump that go to and from the oil filter. So what we're going to do is put in new O-rings there. There they are. And put that piece back on the bottom. And then we will put a new oil pump gear in there that we haven't put in yet. I think we'll remember to put that oil pump gear in before we close up the pump. Something tells me. See, the cameraman, not just my cameraman, he's my mom. And he'll make sure I get everything right. All right. Now we can tighten that up real nice. And then, when it's on the motor, we can also go back and get it again. So here are these two bolts. Let's see, we don't want to do that yet. Let's put the gear in. Here is the final gear into the oil pump. By the way, as many times I drop that key, this is still probably the fastest I've ever put an oil pump together. In other words, don't feel bad. Take your time. Enjoy what you're doing and be thorough. Okay. Now, we'll put the gasket on there. Now this part is kind of fun. I like the design of it because we'll put the gasket on and then we'll put two of the bolts in. Then we'll slide the cover in place. And you don't have to remember I said that. I'll do it. You can see it. Okay. Again, the reason I like white lithium grease is because I don't have to be so careful what I'm doing here. If I just slather it on, it's going to be fine. Use a lot of other kinds of sealers. You know, it's recommended that this be put together dry. If you put it together and it leaks, then you have to do it again. Okay, now I can put this cover gasket on. And with that grease, it's going to stay in place. Then I can put these two bolts in. I'm just going to just barely start them. Now, to my way of thinking, that's pretty cool. Get that out of the way. Now we can put the oil pump cover on the pump. Now we can take these two bolts and just get them out of the way for a moment. And we can carefully slide these two right there. Just slide the cover right over those two bolts and right into place. Now we can add the last of the oil pump mounting bolts. I think we can. There it goes. And there it is. Again, we don't really want to make any of this tight yet. Just gonna Just take the slack out of everything. I'm not really sure exactly the direction that fitting is supposed to go. But we'll see when we put it back together on the bike. Wait a minute, I'm not putting this motor back on the bike. It's Bobby's motor. He's putting it back on the bike. Or into the bike. Okay. Now I'm going to feel all of that and see how I like the way all the body parts of this pump line up. I want them to line up all nice and flush all the way around the edges. I want everything to fit exactly as it was intended. You can see I'm carefully tightening the screws without even touching the pump because I've got it all lined up real nice. Yep, perfect. Well, in my world it's perfect anyway. And I can turn the oil pump gear inside the cam chest, and I can see that everything is floating freely with the gears, the shaft, all of it. Okay. And I can tighten it up a little at a time and then see. Oh yeah. Feels wonderful. I know all the keys are in place. I know that every piece in there is just fine. The next thing I'd like to do is to torque down the oil pump bolts. So I'm going to sneak up on them. I think it's 80 to 120. So I think I'm going to take them up to 100, but I'm going to start at 50. And I can't wait to wipe all this stuff off my fingers so I can handle tools again. There we go. So here we have it at 50 inch-pounds. We're going to tighten from the inside out. You'll notice my thumb is right in the middle of that handle. Okay, there's 50. There's 50. There's 50. There's 50. There. And there. Ooh, it squeezed a little grease out. And again, I can check it, make sure that pump is still just, oh, it's rotating beautifully. I really like this. Okay, now we'll take the wrench up to 80. Again, that's inch-pounds, not foot-pounds. And this is in your book. There's 80. And again, I get to feel that pump, and I'm really pleased. So we're going to go up to 100 inch-pounds. Like I said, it's 80 to 120 is what the book calls out. So I think 100 is just dandy. There's 100 there, 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 and there. All right. Next thing, the plunger for the oil pump. I think we'll put that in real quick. Not much to show in there. Here's a piston that slides up and down in there. And now it's down. No, it didn't go down yet. There it goes. It is now officially in there with its proper spring. And here's the plug, or one of the plugs. Let's see which one is the best looking. I think this one is the best looking. I say that because it's going right here, and we're going to see it. So let's put nice fresh O-rings in here. And we can put that right back down there. Here's a fun tool I've had probably all my life. Big right angle screwdriver. Made by somebody. Says it was made in USA. Mayhew. Old tool manufacturer. I'd say this tool's probably from the 1930s. Looks like I repaired it at one time. Probably 50 years ago. Okay, and that one is down. Okay, the next one is the ball and spring. And the ball is officially in place. And the spring is going to follow it. And now we'll put that plug in there. Now I'm thinking as I go, what did I forget to say? What did I forget to do? If you read how these things work in the service manual, you'll find that this piston that we just put in here, piston, slider, plunger, whatever you wish to call it, the purpose of that is when you first start your motor, the oil is going to the top end, not the bottom end. There's already oil in the bottom end. It's a roller bearing crank. And the roller bearings are already wet. So Harley figures you got to get oil to the top end because it's been coming down, draining while the bike's been sitting. So as soon as that pressure reaches a certain level and that piston comes up, then it splits the oil system and it oils both the lower end and the top end. That's why when you put an oil pressure gauge on a Harley, you'll start it up and it has loads of oil pressure, and after it's run a little while, which is when that oil pressure splits in half, all of a sudden you have very little pressure. Well, these motors don't require much real oil pressure. It isn't pressure they need, it's volume. Okay, so there we are. The oil pump is all complete, and I think what I'd like to do is put the pinion gear in place. And I think, let's see, can we do that? This is the oil pump worm gear that goes on the pinion. Now, we've used a 90 to 91 flywheel assembly in a 97 motor. When you do that, then you have to use all the gears, the whole setup that is on that flywheel system. Let's see. I think the cameraman's telling me to turn it this way. And there it is, it lined up very well with the teeth on the oil pump drive gear. And now, if we can get this key in place, which is the next thing on the agenda. I think I'm going to sync it with a tool here. A tool? Yeah. Now I want the whole world to notice that I'm officially using a different rawhide mallet. It's my little one. Now if we've got this right, then this spacer can slide right on here. No, we don't. So we're going to have to sink that a little more. It's not going. So we'll make it do it anyway. That looks a little better. Yes, indeedy. Sink it just a little more. And this ought to slide right on there. Something like that. And there it is. Okay, now that we've got that done, we can put the pinion gear on. Sometimes a pinion gear will slide right on, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes they're hard to get off, and sometimes they aren't. Well, this one's going to be easy because I said so. And there it is. Okay, the whole system is there. Now, being this is a 90-91 flywheel assembly, which means that's what the pinion shaft is, we have to use this type of pinion nut, which is a left-hand thread, requires a special socket, and actually I'm going to take this back off later and I'm going to Loctite it. But for now I'm just doing it to show how it goes. So what we're going to do is, this here is a special pinion nut tool created by my friend John Petrie. And there it is. Okay, and the reason I'm not going to torque it down now is because I don't have any way of holding it while I torque it. So I think that's going to end this video for now. I hope we showed that oil pump better than I showed it last time. I'd like to get better at showing these things. I hope we've answered a few questions. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and see you out on the road.